Hello, my name is Glen Adsit, and I'm sitting here with Frank Ticheli, and this is video number 2 of our discussion on his composition called Fortress. And in this video, what we're going to do is take you through really a thorough look at the entire composition and give you a greater sense of how this was constructed. And Frank's going to play for a little bit of the excerpts on the piano for us, and we'll go through it measure by measure. So it'll be helpful if you have your score as we look at this and shout out some rehearsal numbers and measure numbers for you to refer to. So I guess the very first part of it, of course, is the introduction and how you begin to introduce what is the theme, but we don't hear that quite yet. It's introduced by the percussion as sort of, in my view, I hear them sort of marching towards me a little bit, and you just begin to hear the snare drum and the very quiet cymbal. And then that timpani comes in. And that timpani sets, as in my view, the mood for the entire piece. If those two intervals are wrong on beats 3 and 4, the whole piece is wrong, right? Because we have to hear that tritone. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, not only the tritone, but also the fifth at the top.
That's right.
The main theme is based on fourths, has that quartal, quintal harmony. So it's establishing both the tritone and also this fifth, fourth dominated harmonic language. And just as I did for the play, in this piece, I'm also, before we have the main theme, I'm establishing a kind of mood. So it's done first with the percussion, and then the entrance of the timpani. The whole thing's transposed down a step. I've been playing this all in C because that's how I had it for the play. But of course, when I wrote it for band, the whole thing goes now down to B flat. So you've got that preceded by the percussion, and then finally the big entrance. First of the soldiers on their horseback, all of that business, and then you've got the main theme. All fourth bass. Just these open fourths. And so that, already in the beginning, these first few seconds of the piece, you've really got the basis for the whole piece. You've got the tritone and the bass line. You've got the seconds happening in this horse music, all this stuff. And then you've got the perfect fourth-based main theme.
Right, and then also you introduce right away in measure 8 the call theme, as you say, which is, I believe you said it was the wrong note fanfare.
Instead of, you've got,
and of course that's a tritone between the G and the C sharp in the principal trumpet there.
Yep, the concert F to B, yes.
And then we proceed farther, and we're now looking at measure 14. And all of a sudden now the flutes come in with something slightly different than we've heard before in terms of the marching music and the main theme.
That's correct. Yeah, that's foreshadowing material that becomes more prominent when we get to the second theme.
And it also feels like the timpani part twice as long.
That's right, augmented.
Exactly.
That's it. Exactly right.
Exactly. All right, and now let's move forward. Now we get to 18, and we have this flute and piccolo line that seems like that's extended from what just came. Is that right? And that's also in the glockenspiel.
That's right, in the glockenspiel and in octaves. Yeah. And I always like that sound. You notice it's written in double octaves. It's actually that particular doubling, the double octave, the 15th rather than the octave. It's always appealed to me. You know, jazz pianists do that all the time. You know, you get that sort of double octave thing. It's just that jazzy quality that has always appealed to me orally.
Fantastic. And then we go to measure 22 now, and this is the first time that we get the legato theme.
That's right.
The contrasting theme to the marching horses.
And so that's a foreshadowing there. It's really, this section is not about this oboe lick. You've got that, but it's just foreshadowing. It's predicting the future in a way, what's going to happen later.
Exactly. Now we get to measure 25, and we have these big, huge block chords. And this is one of those examples I know where you stack the tritones, and they become, in a sense, harmony for the piece.
That's correct.
And then that leads us back into some more marching music at 28. And then at 34, we get a little bit more of that legato theme that starts to, it looks like it's just adding a little bit more, instruments, a little more volume, a little more presence, but still a foreshadowing?
Yes, and so you see, even here, I'm starting to develop early on in the piece, because I've got the main theme sort of having the spotlight, but it's being answered by this foreshadowing of the lyrical theme and the clarinets. So again, the two together, and on top of that, that little galloping horse music as well.
Yeah, and below that, so to speak, the tambourine that is playing with that theme that's, you know, still in our ears. So even though we hear that on the tambourine, I think we're still hearing pitches as we begin to hear the rest of that music.
Yeah.
Now we get to 38, and we have some of the call motive in the piccolo. Again, that sort of wrong note fanfare. And then we have this alteration between the oboes and the E-flat saxophone, the alto saxophone, that kind of go in.
Yeah, well, they're
together.
They're playing it, and, but then in contrast, the piccolo flute. So that call motive is now being imitated at the tritone.
And then we start to get that same kind of imitation at 40 between the trumpets and the upper woodwinds. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, right?
Correct.
Kind of building on one another, all the way up to kind of the first major point, which is at 44.
Correct.
And then we start winding down a little bit.
Right, at 44, we get the final statement of the main theme, or at least a part of it here, just to sort of close it off. I'm closing out this section here.
And then at 46, it starts to wind down. And I, as the band director, want to know why you would write C sharps in the alto saxophones. They never play in tune. And not only that, but it's the C, but they're doubled by the oboes. So I'm even adding more. There's a certain tension that I want to be inherent in here. I know you can probably never get it perfectly in tune, so you're going to get a little bit of some beats, and it's okay actually. Maybe this is why you don't conduct your own piece.
But I like, and also the main harmony right in here is they're on this B flat. So you've already got a little dissonance there, and then on top of that, the E itself is not even in tune with itself perfectly. And I actually like this sort of beat quality that comes out of it. You know, you hear the beats.
Fantastic.
It just adds to the innate tension of the main theme.
So tell me now, as we go into this next section, which you know I think is one of the easiest sections on the page, but sometimes can cause the most difficulty between these solos and the horns and the flutes, which then of course is abrupt at 54, and it's you turn the page and all of a sudden you see what's about to happen, and it's a really nice moment. So tell me about that transition into 54.
Yes, well, it's interesting you say it's easy. I've had a lot of trouble with this.
Yeah, it looks easy, but it's hard.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And of course, a lot of the responsibility falls on the horn player's shoulders because it's muted and it's, you know, this wrong note thing at the top. And a lot of times young horn players have a little bit of difficulty with this. And again, it's done at the tritone. The horn is here. And it's answered by the flute. Right? So you've got this tritone relationship happening here as well. And it's just, I don't even think of it as transitional as much as I think of it as a codetta to the main theme. It's really saying goodbye to this first section, and then without any warning, boom, we're at 54, where it starts to become more imitative. We've got this whole section from 54 to 70 is more about counterpoint. First a big tutti, imitative passage at 54, and then soloistic, more chamber-like four-part canonic writing starting at 59.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really like about the piece a great deal is at 59 it does feel like chamber music. It feels like an opportunity for the students to really hear those four independent parts and kind of chase each other around.
Absolutely.
So that's really fun.
But
All
as a
right.
result, of course, again, can be a challenging section because now it's almost all about soloists here.
Absolutely. And so then that sort of moves into 71, right? And 71 is the point at which we start to get that other theme.
Yes, but not without a tiny reminder of the main theme
That's
in
right.
the tambourine. just a reminder of that before we go on to the second theme.
And so this is the legato theme at 71 that you've referred to. And why don't you play a little bit of that for us?
Okay,
just
sure.
so that we know what that sounds like.
Well, again, as I mentioned in the first part, this theme really came out of just improvising. I was just playing around, again, with that tritone progression. And just making up things with my right hand and ended up with this. Also, rhythmically, I like that sort of offset quality. You've got the chord, and actually a bass line. That sort of been, so they're kind of in dialogue with one another in a way. The bass line on the downbeat, the theme entering on beat 2. So they're not, instead of something like this, they're not together. There's just a slight sense of dialogue between the bass line. And then, of course, on top of that, I've added this what was the accompaniment for the main theme is now the accompaniment for the second theme. So again, I'm developing already at the very beginning of the second theme's appearance. I'm already developing.